Do you have to move to a big city to pursue acting? Let's talk about it.
Hello, for $10,000. Who Excuse me?
Acting Class Weekly with legendary character actor Whalen. Lessons, tips, and insight into the craft and business of acting from a man who's been directed by the likes of Spielberg, Eastwood, Tim Burton, Ang Lee, Michael Bay, Wes Craven, Tom Hanks, and many more of Hollywood's A-list. He is 30 years an actor and your professor, Whalen.
So, do you have to move to, let's say, Los Angeles to pursue acting on a rainy Valentine's Day? Today, I would say no.
Today is a bad day to move here.
It's a bad day to move here.
And I think it's something like 5,000 people who move here every single day or some crazy number. And those 5,000 people got here today and were like, nah.
Well, not worth it.
Nope.
Not worth it. Actually, the Taco Bell job back in Schmoville, Louisiana is better than this. Ooh. Do you like that name?
Schmoville? Yeah. I do. I also think that Taco Bell is better than a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a little bit of a fan.
Yeah. I mean, at least if I make a burrito, I know someone's going to eat it.
Mm-hmm. And that someone is me.
Right, and if I make a movie, I don't know if anyone's going to watch it.
That's true.
So,
maybe we should all move to Schmoville.
Well, Schmoville. We're going to use that all the time. So, as always, with me is Miss Phenomenal, a.k.a. Roxy Striar. And I would like to say to you,
yes, Sean,
since I have a girlfriend and I'm taken care of in that way, I would like to ask, will you be my co-host Valentine?
Your co-Valentine. Your co-Valentine.
Co-Valentine host?
Coho Valentine.
Coho Valentine.
Oh.
That one for sure sounds worse.
Yeah, it does. It sounds worse.
And also, Mr. Funtabulous, Jeff Graham, our producer, is with us. And I would like to ask you as well, will you be my podcast producer, Valentine?
Your Pod Pro Val. I'd be happy to.
Pod Pro Val.
As long as I'm not your coho Valentine, I'm happy to do anything.
Yeah. Coho doesn't sound very good.
I never said that. That was all you.
You know, I was asked by a boy named Marcus in 6th grade if I would be his Valentine, and you know what I said to him?
What'd you say?
Let me get back to you.
Wow. And have you ever gotten back to you?
He came up to me 6 months later and said,
"Oh my gosh,
have you thought about it?"
You know what?
I felt really bad.
He's the manager at Schmoville's Taco Bell.
Well, he's doing pretty well for himself, Ben. Maybe I'm regretting that decision right about now.
Doing well. So today we're going to talk about if you have to move to a big city. We're also going to talk about my week and something I learned about this week that I feel is really important for all actors to embrace if you're going to pursue it. And then I'm going to talk about a great movie experience where I was cast with only one line, and because they liked what I was doing, it grew into a run-of-the-picture part.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really great. So let's start with my week. So this week, I did a script reading with my friends Jason Trost and his wife, Talay Wickham. We have a photo of them. He has done some really cool independent movies. She has joined him as a producing partner for his projects. And we'd been hanging out a lot. Here we are in Ventura, and he thought of me for his new feature, and he and I will co-star in his new feature, he asked me.
Wait, so tell me, how does that happen? Because when you're friends, sometimes it can kind of be awkward when you're talking about a working actor. You've got a ton going on. Does he just ask you? Does he ask you to audition?
We know, because we're good enough friends, we know each other's time and energy and space and what we're working on and stuff like that. So knowing where I am, he knows he can ask me, and he said, listen, we're not going to do it in 3-month chunk because he knows I have kids and things like that. He said we're going to do in pieces over some weekends here and there because it's very independent, and then he's going to do a GoFundMe to finish it. But it's a really, really cool and fun idea, and we did a reading there at his house. Then I had a meeting with the producer, which I actually talked about with you guys a long time ago. A friend was saying, hey, come to this premiere, and I was wondering if I should go. And I went, and I met the director-writer, and we just had lunch yesterday. And he wants to use me for a project of his. So
Damn, Sean.
The takeaway to me is you always have to be prepared. By the way, I didn't get reimbursed for the lunch, and we brought stuff over to Jason and Talay's house. So you're not going to get reimbursed for these things. But there's times that I'm doing things that have nothing to do with getting paid.
Wait, when you say you're not going to get reimbursed, you're talking about food or your work, or what are you talking
about? Gas
about?
or anything. You know, the bottom line, like I brought, paid for helped pay for lunch yesterday, and we brought food over to their house. I guess the main part is instead of what I'm spending, I guess my point truly is I didn't get paid for either one of those things.
And you won't get paid for the projects when you do them?
I will get paid, probably won't get paid for the independent for a while if it does well. I will for the other one. But the point is you have to take opportunities even if you're not getting paid for them, because they lead to other things. I don't know how much in other jobs when you spend your time. I know my girlfriend is in an office job, and when she goes off site or stuff, she'll get travel time and they'll get reimbursed. So just in this business, we all have to be open to the idea that there is a lot of times where you don't get paid, but you have to be open to that. You have to embrace that as part of the process.
Keven Undergaro, our founder, always talks to me about how in this business, not only do you have to be willing to do things for free, but you have to be willing to pay to work.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about a little bit.
Exactly.
Paying to show up. Or
paying to show up.
Paying to take somebody to coffee to pick their brain.
Right.
Or paying to take somebody to lunch. Or driving to Malibu to meet that big director at their place in an hour and a half of traffic that costs you $25 in your gas, whatever it is.
And I would change the word pay to invest.
Invest.
You're really investing in your career. Thoughts on that, Mr. Funtabulous?
I think I trust anything I hear from our CEO and founder, Keven Undergaro. So
yeah.
But not from Professor Wise?
Also Professor Wise.
Pro dubs.
I'm just saying y'all are in the same, I think in the same camp here, which is great.
Yes. But before we move into the topic for today, I'd like Ms. Phenomenal to talk to us a little bit about AfterBuzz.
Yeah, we just mentioned Keven Undergaro, our founder, and he has done such an amazing job making this place into the place that it is, a place that I've actually been for 9 years, Sean. So before we talk about whether or not you should move here to sunny and rainy Los Angeles, we just wanted to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. But for us to continue to grow, we could use your help. And trust me, you can actually do this right from where you are, even if you're in Schmoville. Where did we say Schmoville was? Schmoville, Tennessee?
Louisiana.
Schmoville, Louisiana. So even if you're there, why don't you guys do us a favor and make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. I know that doesn't sound like much, like it would make a huge difference to us, but it really does. When we get those YouTube subscriptions and iTunes ratings, it really helps people find this show and the visibility of it. So if you like what we're doing, then not only tell your friends, but actually help us by rating, by subscribing, and then we want to hear what you have to say. So leave a comment.
Yeah, ask questions. I'd love to answer some actor questions.
We want to know what we should be talking about on this show. It's a new show. We're pretty green to it, which means that you guys are as well. And so if you're wondering X, Y, or Z, that's what we're here for. We're here to answer that. Yeah. So being a part of AfterBuzz, like I said, I've been here for 9 years, and I've actually never been part of a show like this before. So it's always growing and changing, and the opportunities are never ending for me. So I'm really appreciative of that, and thank you guys for supporting us and doing what we love. We love you guys a whole lot. And now we're going to talk about moving to LA or not.
Moving to LA. And let me shift this a little bit. I would say LA, New York, Chicago, and now it cannot be ignored, Atlanta. And I would say lesser. Yeah, you could do Canada. It's tougher. I'm going to keep it in the States.
From here? Okay.
I'm going to keep it in the States. New Mexico, you can get opportunities now, and New Orleans for lesser. But those first four, New York, Chicago, LA, and or Atlanta. Okay. So...
But still, New York and LA on a different...
New York and LA are on a different level, yeah.
Do you think LA is on a different level than New York, or are they on the same level?
They're on the same level. It's literally apple and orange. One is theater-based, which if you do well, let's say Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton will bleed into work in LA. and vice versa. If you do well in LA and you're on a big TV show, you can go do Broadway. So they do intersect, but they're coming from two different avenues. If that
So
makes
you
sense.
think if you want to be
New
a
York
stage actor, the number one place to go,
is New York.
and if you want to be a film actor, the number one place to go is
You come to LA.
okay.
But they can mix and match. You
All right.
can. There's grays in there, if that makes sense. So
So nobody wants grays. You got to pluck those.
yeah, exactly. I have none. I don't get grays. I just lose my hair entirely.
I saw a couple grays in mine the other day. I'm not so happy about it.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm okay. I'm okay with the balding, but I'm not okay with the gray. So when I ever see them, and now I just get crazy one long gray sticking out our eyebrow like the creepy librarian.
It's a look.
It's a look. It
getting
works.
you work,
It's gonna
yeah.
get me work. So, do you have to move? Let's talk about it. First of all, I'm gonna say it depends. If it's a hobby, you like your job, but you need a creative outlet. No, absolutely not. There's community theater things you can do. Is it a side hustle where you'd like to do some movies on the weekend or maybe take off of work every once in a while and just make a little extra money and kind of see where it goes? Again, a creative process, but making a little money at it and then evaluating how that goes. Again, I would say no. If you want to pursue it as a full-time job, I would say yes, but it doesn't have to be right away. It can be eventually.
I have so many questions
Go
about
for
what
it.
you just said.
Go for it.
A side hustle kind of confuses me.
Okay.
Because to me, when you want to be an actor, the side hustle is the other stuff. The side hustle is the money-making stuff. And you said if you want to make a little extra cash and you're just doing this for that reason, do people do that?
Yes.
They make extra money by being an actor?
My girlfriend works in an office. She had a guy that would occasionally do some modeling, a little bit Instagram stuff, but would do commercials every while. But he had a 9 to 5. They knew it, and it wasn't his first love is to do the acting. He liked doing his job at the office, but he also liked doing commercials and doing some acting work. He got a guest star here and there. But then, finally, he did say, you know what? I think I want to give it a try 100%. So he left the office job.
But you think you can have it as a side hustle living in Omaha?
If I know people in Memphis who have regular jobs and they take an acting class from my friend Forrest Pruitt, Indie Acting Studio, and then they'll do acting jobs in student films, and they'll do. Now, I think they might want to eventually go more full time, but
while it's a side hustle.
But some people, they just know it's just something they really like to do and do as a side hustle in terms of they don't want to make the big move. They don't want to uproot their entire life to pursue acting. Does that make sense?
My choir teacher from
Go ahead.
My choir teacher from high school, actually, she's a great singer and will do a lot of sort of regional theater. So she gets paid $20 a show. It's not
Sure.
much, but she loves teaching first, and sometimes she'll get offered parts. And she was just in Chicago, like a regional touring production of Chicago. I think she's Equity, but she would, if she had to be asked, do you want to keep doing regional theater or teaching? She'd say teaching. So
Right. Yeah.
How do you identify which one of these you are?
I think it's, to me, seems clear. Do I want to be a working actor on a regular TV series, on a run of a Broadway show, on a bunch of different movies? Do I want to make my living at that? That's really the question that you have to ask yourself, as opposed to what Mr. Funtabulous was saying, is that what if you're split? What if you like both things? And you would say that teaching is my number one. My music teacher was the same. He sang opera. And he would do it, but he loved teaching and building the music program. So you just have to know 100% blinders on, that's what I want to do. It's like saying, my friend who was a gymnast, she went to University of Michigan on a full ride and then never did it again, but she did it. She loved it. She knew it was going to get her through college. But
Never
she
did
didn't
what
want
again?
Gymnastics. She didn't want to go to the Olympics. And it's basically saying, do I want to be an Olympic gymnast? Do I want to be a working actor? It's just a different frame of mind. And you have to say, am I willing to change my life? Because it is a life change. If I said to you, I'm never doing this again, I'll never see you guys in movies and TV, I want to be a welder, my life would drastically change. So that's the other part. You have
So
to
if
ask.
you identify with number 3, which is viewing this as a full-time job, no matter what the situation, you have to move.
I would say in most cases, yes. And here's why. I know a student we were just talking about before air that's getting some work in Nashville. But I would say the sheer idea that you cannot network as well in a place that doesn't have that as a majority. You're surrounded by the entertainment business in Los Angeles, in New York, in Chicago. You're surrounded by it, and especially LA. They're everywhere. I have a student that was an Uber driver and has literally gotten parts from meeting people, driving people in entertainment. It's just the networking. Because it's a law of averages, the working actor books 15 to 20% of all auditions. Well, that's just the audition part. If you throw in networking, then all of a sudden those chances become a little better because you get different opportunities, like me. I just was talking about that with my friend networking to get that job, my friend networking to go to that premiere, meet that person. Things spread out when you are networking. If that makes sense.
You would have had no Sean's Week this week if it
I would
wasn't
have
for
had
that.
no Sean's Week. It would have been, here's my week, Monday through Friday.
What happened the weekend?
I never count that.
Makes sense.
So, are you following me, Mr. Fantabulous?
Yeah, I definitely am. I think I am, yes.
Yeah.
Jeff's like, why'd I move here? Why am I
Yes.
in this city?
And do I really want
Just
to be
kidding,
his
Jeff.
podcast Valentine?
Coho.
Yeah.
Coho.
It's just-
Coho.
You're trying to shove a
Coho
round
into
circle
you?
into a square. It's not happening.
Always confused with that expression. Square peg, or is the peg circle? Is this, what shape is the hole? Which shape is the peg?
Isn't it square peg into a round hole?
Or is it a round peg into a square hole?
I think
Square
it's a
peg,
square
round
peg
hole.
into a round hole.
Square
Totally,
peg
yeah.
Into a round hole.
round hole.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Yeah.
the co-host Valentine to me sounds a lot better than coho Valentine.
Coho.
It's all right.
Schmo,
Do you think?
coho.
Schmo, yeah, it's a lot of schmo and how today. So, what can you do if you're going to do this as a side hustle, or if you are going to get ready to move? So, the first thing you want to do if you're staying in town is log in some experience. Okay, all good for the side hustle, good for if you're getting ready to move. Theater at community colleges, at community theater. Get some experience doing shows. Take classes. We discussed this in our previous couple episodes. Check those out.
Yeah, we give you some tips on how to actually do that, how to find those classes.
How to do it with that and without that. With and without classes. Shoot movies with friends. Get your iPhone, get your some video equipment, and shoot some movies. Get some tape on yourself. Go to local colleges for their film schools. They're always looking for newer actors, and they don't require union or anything like that. You can just be someone who submits themselves. Local independent movies. There's Actors Access in every town. You can log in there, put up a profile, and then you just go through every day, and you can submit stuff locally as well. So you really want to log in some experience. That's going to help you when you move to the big city. But obviously, if you're doing it as a side hustle, again, what happens in all those places I just talked about? Networking. You're going to meet more people, and your opportunities will grow. The second thing you want to do is you're going to have to change your life a little bit, not as drastically as a big move, but you do want to save some money. If you're going to move eventually, you want to make sure you have your fund. I always say $5,000 would be great when you first get to LA or New York or Chicago or Atlanta, just to have a couple months to get an apartment, things like that.
And I
But
think 5,000 LA, Atlanta, New York Probably more.
Yeah, you might need a little
Because
more in New York.
if you need first and
Chicago,
last,
you'll be all right.
Chicago,
but
you'll be
New
right.
York.
If you need first and last month,
Yeah, that's true.
that's your 5,000 right there.
Well, that's if you're living by yourself.
Well, I'm not
highly
even
don't
saying living by
recommend
yourself,
that.
but in New York, it's first, last,
Yeah.
and security.
Okay.
So
So yeah, you might need a
and
little
you need
more.
your train pass, which if you're
Yeah.
gonna get one for the whole month, it's not actually 5,000 for just, but it
Right.
could be upwards.
Yeah,
of
yeah. You could get-
3,500, 4,000
Yeah.
for those things.
Yeah. So you have to save some money. But even if it's the side hustle, why do you need to save some money for the side hustle? Because you might get a part in this independent movie. I had a good friend who just did an independent movie, and he only made $100 a day. But you want that tape, you want that experience, you want that networking opportunity. So you have some money aside. So if you do have an option to take that opportunity without saying I can't because I can't afford taking off of work.
Right.
So it's also good to have all that money saved for options. As my brother, who was a very successful businessman, said, I only have money for options. So I have more options, not because I need a yacht or anything. I just want more options, which I think is a great way to look at it. Also, when you're getting ready to move or doing your side hustle, learn the business. Learn the entertainment business. Who owns what company owns what kind of movies are they producing, what are popular TV shows, why are they popular, try to follow trends. The current trends, like right now, there's a big swing with ethnic roles, which is great. Diversity, fantastic. We're celebrating so many different cultures the last couple of years. That's great. So know that if you are or are not ethnic. And what does that mean? If you're not the trend, that doesn't mean you can't move to LA or you can't do the side hustle. It just means that you have to work differently. You might have to take different kind of roles or switch them into maybe bad guy roles or teacher roles or depending on what the trend is.
How do you figure that out? So if you recognize what the trend is, which say the trend is
So for me, let me make an example.
Okay.
So sorry to cut you off, but in the 90s when Seinfeld was on, it was about character actors. And it was perfect for me, right? So that was the trend. So I responded. My work went up, but I also wanted to be prepared. So I watched a lot of Seinfeld and to see what they're looking for in terms of quirky. It was all neighbors or a quirky group. They always try to repeat the same thing. But I knew that. Right now the trend is, like I just said, ethnic. So I'm not ethnic, but are ways in that you say, okay, so right now we're having the ethnic parts as, heroes and name justice warrior, just things like that. And maybe roles like mine right now are becoming bad guys, but that's okay. So I'm kind of shifting into that, maybe changing my look a little bit.
So when you
things
get
like
that information, though, okay, right now I'm only getting cast as the bad guy, the villain, the whatever it is.
Right.
Then you physically transform?
You could.
Or you talk
That's
to your agent,
one
you
way.
say, I want to go out for these. What are all the steps?
So if, let's say you're in the trend, so you just obviously have to be prepared, take good care of yourself, that kind of thing, to be ready for a lot of work, right? If you're not, let's just say, like I always love to use Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, who I would say was not the trend 5-6 years ago, but she created her own pathway. She did a lot of fun comedy musicals, posted a lot of videos, and then got her way into pitching a TV show, which was bought by Showtime. Then they cut her off immediately and it went to the CW. So she maybe had to work a little harder because she wasn't the trend. No one was looking for a musical comedy show, if that makes sense.
What if it's less clear? Like ethnic, okay, so you're not, Sean. You're
Right.
just not. But what if the trend
I'm Irish.
what if the trend is hipster, which it was a few years ago, hardcore? Do you lean into that and do you say, I could be hipster, even though that's not your natural state?
Right. Depending on my age, I have to know where that fits. So maybe I'd go in for the boss of a hipster place or the uncle of a hipster, but for my age, I wouldn't. But let's put it this way. The trend was beards. And you recall, I had a beard for quite a while because that's just what was going on.
So you do try to lean into it if you
Try to
can
lean
be the
into it
trend.
if you can. Obviously, me growing a beard is a lot different than me saying, okay, I have to shave 20 years off and be a hipster. Can't really do that. But I have to find my way, then where does my kind of person fit? It's just good knowledge. So you're not constantly disappointed or disheartened. You go, okay, well, I've got to, you just look at them as obstacles to get around as opposed to getting defeated by them. Then, with that same question, learn your type. So when you're going to theater colleges or community colleges to do theater, or you're taking classes, or you're shooting movies with friends or film school movies, learn your type. I know I'm not Tom Cruise, and I've known that for a long time. And I've never tried to. I never wanted to. I knew who I was. I was a character actor. I was a young character, quirky, looked like Stan Laurel with spiked hair, like Sid Vicious. And it was just my look. I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it. But that's who I was. So I knew that I was going to get fun, quirky parts. And it was fun to see how that went. And so I'm not calling my agent night and day or bringing in a Tom Cruise scene for my acting class because I know my type and I know what I'd be cast in, so I may as well work within my wheelhouse.
How long does it take somebody to learn their type?
I would say probably a good solid, at the minimum 6 months to maybe 2 years.
And do you have to try all different types to know which one you are?
Well, you also have to have a decent self-esteem to take the criticism. I've had people say, look at your horrible teeth. Why would you do that? And I was like, Steve Buscemi doesn't. I mean, who cares? It's not what I don't need to have perfect teeth for the things that I go out for, if that makes sense. And I knew, honestly, because the plays I was cast in high school. I was the nerdy boyfriend in Bye Bye Birdie, the one who punches Conrad. I was Renfield in Dracula, the creepy guy who eats the flies. I was the kind of goofy, I forget the name of the play, but I was like the goofy, quirky young kid that had bravado. So I started to see the kind of things that were working for me anyway. And then when I got to UCLA, I got a part of a young, snarky, neighbor kid. So I started to see what was working, and I just leaned into that. You have to be honest who you are. Am I the gorgeous woman who's going to compete with Michelle Pfeiffer, or am I Kristen Bell, who's cute but quirky and can do a lot more character things? You just have to slowly own up to that. What do you think of that, Mr. Funtabulous?
I think it's really good advice, and I'm wondering if we've talked about class, and of course, if you're not moving to LA, you can still take acting classes, and I'm guessing reputable teachers would help you determine what your type is.
Absolutely. They, as you get further along, they want you to experiment and just learn the humanity and emotional reality of acting. But as they go further, a good teacher will start to say, listen, why don't you start bringing in things that you're more castable? I could play Oscar Madison in The Odd Couple, but I'm probably much more in the wheelhouse of Felix. And I know that. And that doesn't make me mad. It's easier for you to sell what you know. If you are a sugar cereal, you're not going to put a bunch of nature and oats and things like that on the box. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So don't try to force something that isn't. Don't try to put the square peg in the round hole.
Or the round peg
this
in
is
the
like,
square hole.
This is like Coho
the same kind of thing.
It's all very tough today.
All right.
Very tough. So,
should you do this before you move here?
yes, this is all pre-moving.
But you should not move here if you have not already done this, I mean.
I would say this is part of your process to move. It's wasting precious time when you're here. It's best to hit the ground running.
So once you get here, you should already have that money. You should already know what type you are.
Yes.
You should already have learned a little bit about the business and
Yes.
figured out the groundwork prior to coming to
Absolutely.
Los Angeles.
Listen, of course you don't have to, but why stymie yourself? because if you can save money and get a lot of these kinks worked out in your hometown, great. Plus, here's a really great thing. You're also maturing and growing as a person. Acting is not just the craft. My acting teacher always said it's 20 years of life and 20 years of craft. And that's because the 20 years of life, you get to grow a little more. You're going to learn a little more. You're going to have more experiences under your plate if you live a little more life before you get here. That's what I truly believe. Also, another thing you'd like to do, don't forget to study the craft. This is a reminder, and again, this is back from shows we've done earlier. Watch movies, read plays, watch television shows. Go to the AFI 100 top movies and learn those films. We're going to do a whole thing about what we should be watching in terms of just knowledge of the business. In the future, we'll do an episode. Pick a popular actor that you really like and study their movies. You know, maybe it's Meryl Streep, maybe it's Marlon Brando, maybe it's Tom Hanks, Regina King. It could be anybody. And study their movies and study from beginning to end, study their growth. The more well-versed you are in the business and the craft of the business, the better it will be for you when you start taking meetings and can speak literally the language. We're going to Paris this summer. We have an ace in the pocket. My daughter is in AP French, 4th year, and it's all about conversation and how to deal with the culture and stuff. She's going to be our person. And our experience will be much better because we have her. Doesn't mean we can't go to France, but it would be a tougher road.
If you're doing these things in your hometown because you think you're gearing to come here,
Yes.
and you're kind of hating it, do you come anyway and give it a shot after you've tried these things? Or if you're not enjoying this, does that mean don't come?
I would say if I was a welder, I said, I'm going to do a welder because I know they make good money, solid hours, I get a nice union, the whole thing. But I just can't stand, the way my arms feel after I've been working for a long time, then I would say, no, this isn't for me. So yeah, this is you're wading into the pool to see if you're going to take the swim or not. And if you don't like it here, it's only harder in the bigger cities. Everything that's hard about it and that you don't like about it, magnify that by 10 when you get to the bigger city. So yes, it's also a great thing that you brought up. It's a litmus test. It is a litmus test to see if you can handle the ups and downs. And if you can handle it on a small scale, you can probably handle it on a big scale. What do you think about that, Mr. Fantabulous?
Love it.
Yeah. So here to me is the most important 2 things that you need to learn. Either a side hustle, I don't care if you're doing it as a hobby, I don't care if you're going to do it full time. It's the most important thing. Number 1, learn to network. Learn how to meet people, take phone numbers, get phone numbers, keep in touch, keep a nice catalog of people who you're going to have lunch with. I'm having lunch next week with the producer of Never Been Kissed, who we'll talk about. We always go to lunch every 6 months, always, just to
Because
catch
you
up.
reach out?
Because we both, he or I will reach out and go, hey, it's time for our lunch. It's time. Disney executive, same thing. My friend Corey Lunsford over at Disney. We have lunch every 6 months. We just catch up on life. And sometimes the business stuff comes into play. Sometimes it doesn't. And it doesn't feel like networking. Don't be a disingenuous networker. If you really don't like somebody, then don't reach out to them. But most people.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah. The people said, oh, you should keep in touch with them. I was like,
No, I really didn't
not
like
my
them.
jam. Huh. No, not my thing. And they probably could help me on some things, but I just don't want to. It just doesn't fit my wheelhouse. And I'm a very open and like a lot of people, so it's pretty rare. And the second thing, so to network, if you want to learn how to network, the number 1 book I would tell you to read is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Very famous book by Dale Carnegie. It's been around for, I think it's probably almost a decade, I would say.
I've never read this book.
It's the most important book for business, hands down. Mr. Fantabulous, ever read it?
I have heard that I need to read this book.
Yes. So here's
And
the
that's the
crazy
same thing to millennials.
No, but here's the crazy thing is I thought it's the worst, most cheesy
Title
title. It's
ever.
awful, awful. And then, of all people, my artist friend, who's a jazz drummer, said, you need to read this. And I thought, you, of all people? I can't believe it. He goes, dude,
How to win friends and influence people.
sounds so manipulative
Yeah.
and awful. And it just isn't. It's literally all about, I know that you're interested in clog dancing, right? So I come to a meeting for you and I said, hey, how are you doing? Great. Did you see the clog dancing festival is happening in Santa Barbara? Yeah, I go every year. Well, that's so, I'm making it about you.
Yeah.
I'm finding your interest and speaking to you on a personal level.
Winning me.
Yeah, and so yes, the title is the worst title. Get over the title.
Okay.
The influence, the book inside is great.
I'll try to get over it.
And then a simple tip: try and meet 2 to 3 people every week. Just try to meet, even at the store, being friendly to somebody.
What is
you don't
meeting
need a
them?
phone
Their name?
number. No, just meet them, say hi. Just reach out to someone in line that you. Instead of just saying, hey, put that there, you might see that they have carrots and you go, oh, those things, I eat too much of those, I turn orange. Oh, yeah, really? Just start a conversation, with strangers, see how you can meet people. Just simply, you don't have to get their phone numbers, but just to put yourself in practice to be open and friendly. And the second is when you do your work at the theaters or friends' schools or any kind of films or plays, build your reputation as a person who is easy to work with. This is crucial. I talked to the independent producer yesterday, Harley Whalen. He had films in Michigan. He saw that there was a need there. He was an actor, and he started to get money and writing and producing a bunch of films in Michigan. And he and I were talking about this, how in casting, you'll say, such a good actress, so great, but I heard they're really difficult. You're off the list. So when you take class, show up on time, do your homework. When you're in a movie, show up on time, be prepared. When you're, and he said there's local Michigan people that need his jobs, but they'll show up and go, oh man, I'm so busy, I don't have my lines down. And he said, I would never say this to their face, but they're never hired again.
Yeah.
Done. Because how many people are looking for Michigan actors? Nobody. So but the people who do show up and are always great, he puts in every movie. And now they're getting SAG credits. So
Maybe I
it's
should move to
so
Michigan.
simple. It's really simple. And for me, and another shout out to, I'm going to tell her, Sheila, my student in Texas. She is so professional. The communication's great. If she has to shift anything around, she shows up on time. She's always prepared. And to me, I've had other students on Skype that if my manager said, hey, you have any people out of town? We're looking for new faces. She's at the top of my list.
Really?
Hands down. And there's other people who I thought might have even been easier to cast, stuff like that, but the way they handled everything, never in a million years. But
That's great.
Sheila is great.
Sheila.
So I will have to tell her that I put a shout out to her again.
She's
But she
our
is one of my, and I'd love
coho.
to, no, and maybe one day we'll have a show with you. We talked about having one with a student, and I'd love to have her on here
That would be
via
great.
Skype. And, here's a young woman who's in Texas, and she's getting the prep to slowly get ready to move to LA in a couple years.
So somebody like her, when you're Skyping with her, you
Mm-hmm.
would advise her to move to LA eventually?
I asked her what her goals were, and she said, yes, I want to really give acting a try. And she had brought it up herself. I didn't need to really push it. So these are really the kind of things you can do before you move, or if you're just doing it as a side hustle, and even as a hobby. Community theater, man, they are really harsh because it's literally all about their time. And do they want to deal with somebody who's difficult? No, they don't have to cast you. They're volunteering their time.
Right.
So be easy to work with and network.
It's like you said to me, and this stuck with me. I think this was on episode 1, maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
I will not make your life harder.
Yeah. Don't make anybody.
I will not make your life harder.
Yeah, don't make your teacher's life harder, your director, your producer, anybody. So with those tips, Mr. Frontabulous, I hope I haven't made your life harder.
Never, Sean. My life is always easier with you in it.
Thank you so much. So, thoughts on the overall thing, Mr. Fantabulous?
I think it's great. I think, I like the idea of arming yourself before you move out to LA. It's interesting. The one thing I was wondering is if it's hard to truly identify the trends of this industry before you move out here.
You can literally sign on to websites, not BuzzFeed, but Hollywood websites that see who's getting cast. You just look at the award shows, what's getting nominated, what articles are being written about, when they talk about snubs, why, and certain actors speaking out. You can see trends. When you see 5 wannabe Seinfelds pop up, you know the trend. When the funny thing about Trends was it was like, character actors are great, and then a year later Friends came out and they go, we're kidding, just good looking people are. And so that trend ended right away because then Friends jumped ahead. So it's just having an awareness and looking and seeing listen, who's going to deny right now that comic book movies are the trend? Nobody.
Right.
Because that's what's coming out in theaters. So it's not that hard, if that makes sense. Horror is having a resurgence.
So you have to be
How do we
watching.
know? Yeah, just keep your eyes open.
So as an actor, you might think, I should get into really, really good shape, because it seems like right now most hires happen when people are kind of jacked.
Yeah, yes, if you saw something like that, or superheroes, or you said, oh, I really have that great horror short film I wanted to do. Horror is big right now, and so it spawns from the top down. There's
that this
horror
weekend,
film
Sean.
festivals. You did a horror movie?
A horror short film this weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's trendy. I'm so trendy.
You are so trending.
That's what they call me.
I can't see the minutes.
Yeah, me neither.
So,
So that means maybe we just
Mr.
keep
Fantabulous, we can't see the minutes for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
going. He's just hiding them from us.
So,
He never
thank
wants
you.
it to end.
All right.
People
I know
at
you've
home have
been.
no idea what we're talking about.
I know. Sorry, people. It's all Hollywood business stuff.
Peek behind the curtain.
Peek behind the curtain. So, I know you were excited about this. I was given a part in the movie Never Been Kissed.
Well, this is how I recognized you.
Is it really?
When we were
I didn't remember that.
when Sean and I met at Coffee
Bean with Keven
and
Undergaro.
Sean recognized me, of course, as being one of the leads in the Star Trek series. And by that, I mean I was wearing a Star Trek outfit, and he came up to us actually and asked if we were going to a convention, and I turned immediately before Kevin can even come up to you and say you're famous.
I did not know
I turned
this.
to Ashley, the other girl we were with, and I said, "Never been kissed."
Oh, that's so funny.
Because that's me. That's my.
Right.
I know that you have people who are big horror fans that will come up to you.
Sure.
Or people that are big It's Always Sunny fans, which I actually am as well. But for me, Never Been Kissed was my jam.
It's
And
funny
so-
because I know when somebody goes, "What have I seen you in?"
This happened at the studio the other day. She was
Yeah.
like, were you on
Yeah,
Disney?
and you look at them and you try to assess to wheedle it down. Wheedle is not a word, but
Whittle?
Weed. I'm taking wean and whittle and wheedle it down a little bit. I think it's gonna stick. So you try to get in their wheelhouse, and if I see an enthusiastic young woman from the age of 20 to 45, the first thing I will say is never been kissed. And
Well,
a
I am
lot
in
of
that
times
range.
you are just shy of 45.
Although a lot of people think I'm younger, it's fine.
So this was a part I had done. Twister. Spielberg was a friend of Drew Barrymore's. I guess she was a fan of mine from a milk commercial that I did, which you can hear in the beginning of our introduction with Maria. And she was doing a movie called Never Been Kissed. And I had become friendly with them, and they said, "Hey, we have a part for you." And it was one line. And she comes into her office. I hand her a message, and I have a booger on it. And she thinks, so what it's trying to do in the setup is show, her life is not going the way she wants. Her assistant is so slovenly that he has a booger on her messages. So she's really not doing very well.
Do you remember what the line was?
No. She's messages, and I go, "Here you go." I think it's literally like, "Here you go." So then we became more friendly, and I was easy to work with and fun, and tried to
You
make
became more friendly with who, Drew?
with her producing partner Nancy Javonin, who is now married to Jimmy Fallon and Drew, and we would talk, and they said, "What would you do and think was funny?" I said, "What I would do? I would think it'd be funny if she's just a copy editor's assistant," but he thought He wears the Armani suit. He has the headset. Back then, headsets weren't as normal as they are now. Had a headset, thought he was the sharpest guy in the world, inflated his ego, basically. I think that would be funny for a copy editor's assistant, thinking like he's running a major studio or on Wall Street. So they said, great. They let me pick my costume. I did get the Armani suit and everything. So
And do they know at this point? They're like, okay, he's Groundlings. He is funny. We're
Yeah.
picking his brain.
Yes.
Okay.
So then we do the first day, and it's the first shot of the first day of the first movie that Drew ever produced with her name on the title. And I'm sitting at a desk, and she walks up and says, hey, Markin, get my messages. So while she's walking in, they said, hey, can you come up with stuff? So I wrote all these really funny lines. And one of them was, I said, hey, when you last saw me, did you think I looked fat? Do you think I looked fat? You hesitated. I heard you hesitated. I get it. And he goes, hey, I thought of a really cool T-shirt. Power is powerful. I'm going to sell the crap out of that thing. I'm going to, So I was just making stuff up. And I really went for it. And they didn't know what I was going to say. Because I thought if they hate it, they could really shut me down. But they...
So every take you did something different, you mean? Or
yeah,
you pitched them
no,
all
that was
these?
the first take that I did that, and they came up and said, we love it, keep it going. So after that, they said, keep writing stuff. And so I was just sitting there in between state writing stuff. I said, I don't know about the feng shui in this office. It's like pointed towards evil. It's making me very uncomfortable. Just a bunch of different things. And then they came to the part where they said, hey, we need to do the part with the booger. And the director said, yeah, it's in the script. And I said, oh, okay. I was kind of bummed because I thought I moved away from that. It wasn't really the character. And Drew came up and says, can you tell me something, Sean? Would your character do that? And I said, I just didn't want to cause problems. I didn't want to be someone who was difficult. And I said, well, listen, if you guys need it. And she said, no, Sean, I'm asking you, with all the work you've put in for this character, do you truly believe he would do that? Have a booger on a message? And I said, no, I don't think so. She goes, we're not going to shoot it. And the director said, listen, we have to. She said, if I shoot that and the studio likes it,
Then they use
they
it.
might put it in the movie and it would kill all the work that Sean did on his character. We're not even going to give him that option, so we're not going to put it on film. And she 100% had my back. It was so great. And they loved that I was making that effort.
That's so cool.
Then later, there's a scene in a bar where they wanted some funny stuff and they called me in. And they said, will you just improvise this stuff? And I did. And I improvised a whole bunch of fun stuff. And when people talk to me about that, they talk about that scene in the bar where I'm like dancing, swaying my head back and forth and being embarrassed that my boss was up there dancing, who was Drew Barrymore. They loved that. And then they kept just bringing me back throughout the movie. Like one time she throws the headsets at me and it hit me right in the face. And I was supposed to say, I didn't have a line, but I said, she's totally into me. And but it hit like it hurt, and she knew it. And they kept going, and then I said my line. They laughed so hard, and she was so embarrassed and so sad that she hurt me with the headphones. And I said, no, it was an amazing take, because it's even funnier that you throw it. It throws me completely off, hits my head. I look like a jerk, and I still say she's into me. And they used that take in the movie. So... And then they had me at the very last scene, and I had an arc with this other young character actress. And when everyone's kissing, her and I kiss at the end. So it went from one line to letting me grow the whole thing. And I guess my point is, at the beginning of the show, I was talking about be open to pursuing opportunities. But then when you get an opportunity, don't come in with the basics. If they ask you to do 100%, do 130%. Be so good, as Steve Martin says, that they can't ignore you. And that was an experience that people ask, what are your favorite movies? One, I would say People Under the Stairs was my first movie, and Wes Craven, and that was really great. But in terms of comedy, that was just the best thing ever. Never Been Kissed, hands down.
Did you guys keep in touch ever after that?
We did for several years. I did Charlie's Angels with them, and then they both moved to New York, and it just got harder to be in touch. I still keep in touch with Nancy Javonen every once in a while. So, but it was just an amazing experience, and I will never forget how she had my back. But it's only because I showed up with more than just what was required.
awesome.
So chase your opportunities, be willing to understand that you don't get paid for those, but then when you get them, maximize them. What do you think of that story, Mr. Fantabulous?
I love it. Nancy Javonen's she's a good friend to have, definitely. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
She's great. It was so much fun.
I bet you work with them again in the future.
I hope so. I mean, we had fun. I have very fun party stories that I'll have to tell off the air. But we had a great time. So those are my tips for do you have to move to a big city? See where you identify, as you were saying, in that list of, it's a hobby, it's a side hustle, or it's something I really want to pursue. And then do the work in your hometown to see if you even like it. And if you do that, then you'll be much more prepared when you do get to that big city to give it a full shot. So as always, Mr. Fantabulous, Jeff Graham, our producer, Roxy Striar, Ms. Phenomenal. I forget my Valentine, the Coho Valentine. And what were you, Mr. Fantabulous?
Your Pod Pro Val.
Pod Pro Val.
Coho Prod Pro.
So what would I be to you guys?
Always
You're
Professor
just
Wise.
Professor Wise.
Yeah.
Don't try too
I don't
hard.
get any Valentine, any love whatsoever because it's Valentine. Okay, that's fine. I get it.
No.
It's all very clear, the relationship here.
Yeah.
Thank you, as always, for letting me be part of your journey.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.